Morning, it's 8:35. So let's see if we can start. I see mostly people from sponsored programs. Hopefully there are lots of people online. We want to give you lots of updates. You see the schedule there. Cindy Gates would not be able to be here. So instead of Cindy, maybe accounting would give us some updates on where we are, end of the year, that type of thing. The major issues that we are facing right now is that today is, this 20, what day is it? 26. 28 is the end of the time that there's budget in federal government, and hopefully they would do something between today and tomorrow. So we would continue. If not, if there's no budget by end of continuing resolution, which is 28, Friday night, then we would end up, where we have been there before several times, that the government has to shut down. The effect on us has to do with basically no new awards coming. We won't be able to issue new sub-awards based on the awards that they have stopped. Most probably they would tell us that we would be able to continue working on awards that they are there, but not all agencies would say that. Some of the agencies might say stop working. So it depends on lots of things. Grants.gov, for example, in the last round that went too far, that we got to the point that the government was shut down. Grants.gov was working. They were accepting proposals, but they weren't pushing them to any of the agencies because everything else was closed. The government staff would be on furlough, so any of the contacts with the government that we would have with the sponsors, none of that would happen. So hopefully we won't get there, but that's what happened several times before. The last one that affected us substantially was in 2013. That we had to send a message to the campus to tell them basically what I just told you and give some more information. Some agencies, they gave us a stop order at that point. Maybe, Grace, maybe you would have some more that, you would go to more detail on that. So those are parts of the news, and hopefully things would work out. Some of the other issues that we have talked about before, obviously I guess the salary cap has increased. We talked about it last time, NIH salary cap. But on the side of the negative news, are we okay?
I don't know what's going on. I got it.
On the side of negative news, the issues having to do with the potential budget cut to funding agencies. That's where you probably have seen and heard the news in the last several weeks that NIH might be facing a roughly 20% cut, and that's a huge cut. That translates to right now NIH gets a little bit over 32 billion a year. I think it's 32.6 or something. It's less than 33 billion a year. Almost 8-9 years ago, they were at around 25, 26 billion. So they increased it at that point to where we are now. So basically they are taking it back if that would happen. 20% is 6 billion. That's a lot. The 32 billion is distributed among roughly 2,500 universities, but obviously this university is the biggest university as far as, the whole 10 campuses, as far as getting a big chunk of that money. So anyway, those are all coming down, all on the negative side of the news. So let's go to something that can cheer us up a little bit. Maybe Sherry, do you want to talk about the database and where we are?
Good morning. Testing, is it on? Can you hear me? No, I'm getting no's and yeses. Is that better? Okay, all right. Might have taken a little while to kick in. All right, I'm Sherry Pulis, and I'm the Project and Business Analyst for the Office of Research. And one of the projects that I am helping to manage is the implementation of the Cayuse SP system. So we're moving steadily along. We finished the training of all the SPO staff and the focus groups a few weeks ago, and that went really well. So the training for the SPO staff was 2 full days, and then for the focus group, we had 2 half-day sessions. We're up and running on that. We have finalized the institutional and administrative data and sent that over to the vendors to upload to the system. That was one of the major hurdles that we needed to cross over to move us closer to getting our production system released to us. We are also, all the teams, the proposal team, the awards team, subawards negotiations, et cetera, they're all working on documenting their business processes. So they've had some really, really great sessions over the past couple of weeks, and proposal team, they're hitting it hard. They're meeting about two times a week. They're trying to meet at least 2 times a week for a couple of hours each session to go through all the business processes and kind of figure out how everything's going to fit together and how the proposals will be processed, not only in their office, but also how it will be processed campus-wide. And Cassie and I are going to start working on, mostly Cassie, working on the training material. So she's been also helping the awards and proposal team document those business processes and put together information for their training, as well as what we will potentially use for campus. So that's one of the things that we need to work on, is once we start rolling it out to campus, how we're going to facilitate the training. With that in mind, we finalized the list of our pilot departments. I won't release what they are just yet because we still need to get blessing from some of the management to make sure that those are okay, and then we need to contact those departments. But we're looking at 3 currently right now to start those pilots somewhere around mid-May. So we should have our production system. Right now they're working in a testing system or a sandbox. You've probably heard that mentioned before, doing all their testing, doing all their processes, looking at how the system's working. Once we finish all the behind the scene things, then the vendors will hand off that system to us as our live production system, and then we can start working with the pilot departments. Also, the other component that we're trying to finalize is another item called HR Connect. I know I've mentioned that before, or you might have heard that. Currently, for those of you using Cayuse 424, kind of run into some little inconsistencies with the profiles and how they're created, and sometimes people on campus get locked out of it because someone else created their profile for them. Well, that's going to go away, and the HR Connect is going to pull in all the personnel data automatically. So we're shooting for to have that done bi-weekly based on the pay periods. And if someone gets hired outside of that time frame when it syncs with the system, then we have other instructions on how they would need to create their profiles. But outside of that, it will be created for them automatically. So it'll pull in all that information, and we don't have to worry about that. Yes, Mike. Bi-monthly, thank you. Thank you, bi-monthly, sorry. Thank you, Mike. All right, and also while SPO is documenting their business processes, they're still completing their user acceptance testing to make sure there's not any items that have come up that we need to address before we get our production system. And then the reporting team, they're also working on reporting tools and their new reporting system to help support campus as well as SPO and all the UCOT reporting. So we're meeting with different departments, compliance folks to kind of figure out what their needs are for reporting, what their needs are for their department. So they've been working with them. Right now, we are targeting July for the use of all proposals and awards to be entered in Cayuse SP so that we can start making Cayuse SP our system of record. And then we're targeting for campus-wide to finish everyone rolled into the campus by fall. And also, I wanted to remind everybody that we're still running the Cayuse 424 labs. For those who would like to get assistance with those Cayuse 424 labs, just send an email to proposals@ucdavis.edu, and we will get you invited to one of the labs. We're still running them every Thursday from 9:30 to 10:30. And we may extend that just kind of depending on the department and how things are going or how many people we have. I'm sorry, yes, thank you. Yes, it is here at Office of Research. Yes, it is. So the next one, I just scheduled one. I think there's the second Thursday in May, I do believe. We have one running, so. All right, anybody have any questions, any comments? Did I miss anything, Mike, Chris? Ahmed, did I miss anything?
I don't know you. We'll see.
I'm sure you would let me know.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
We are moving along. The next person to give us an update and talk about IACUC is Alan. He is the IACUC administrator with the safety services. Thank you very much, Alan, to come to here and talk to us. I think you have some
Thank you.
websites that you want to update.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alan Ekstrand. I've been IACUC administrator now for about, I think, coming up on 9 years. So I know I've emailed a lot of you guys, but as the animal program slowly making its transition over to Office of Research, I think we'll be much more involved over in this area. But just a couple of updates from our world. Back in October, we had our ALAC site visit. ALAC is the organization, it's a voluntary accreditation organization that comes out and kind of reviews our program. And they're kind of, when you get their accreditation, it's kind of the gold standard of an animal care program. So it's very important to our university. It makes our reporting with NIH much easier. And a lot of funding agencies actually require that your organization be ALAC accredited. So it's an important accreditation to the campus. So they came out, it was 8 site visitors for an entire week. They went to all of our animal facilities on campus at the Med Center, as well as several of our offsite facilities. And we got our letter last month. We got full accreditation. Thank you. No suggestion for improvements and no mandatory items, which is only the second time since we've been accredited in 1966 that we've gotten a clean letter. So we're extremely excited. We do have a very strong program. So we're quite happy that we've got that accreditation. We've got no work to do for them because usually they give us a pretty long list of things they want us to be working on. So we had a really good team, a really good visit. But for those who don't know, we have one of the largest animal care and use programs in the country, with the primate center, with the vet school, with a large ag program. A lot of campuses don't accredit their ag facilities, but we group all of ours under one umbrella, one program, one standard for our campus research and teaching activities. So we group everything together. We've got facilities as far south as El Centro on the Mexico-California border, the Bodega Marine Lab, and all up and down the state. So we've got a really large program. We're really happy again about our accreditation. So I've got our website pulled up here. Sorry,
You, Alan.
Thanks, Cindy.
Sorry, as our interim vet, that was really stellar work by you and just wanted to-
Thank you. Yeah, it was a job well done across the board. Yeah, Lori stepping in as an interim vet, coming in, taking on a large role, over a lot of different groups. She did a really good job. And then our researchers, research staff, and animal facility managers did amazing because they go down the hallways and start knocking on doors. So for our research labs, they're talking to graduate students and undergraduates, and that's where we always get a little nervous about what answers they might give. Never quite sure, but they all did fantastic. The graduate students, the researchers did a good job explaining their research. And again, things were in compliance. They felt we've got a strong program. So really happy about that. And that's not what you always hear. We've got to get a lot of attention from the animal rights folks sometimes, and sometimes that's what people tend to hear, but don't listen to them. We've got a strong program. For those who need it, we did post right here. We've got our ALAC accreditation letter. Usually when you're filling out grant applications, you want to know the number and the most recent date. So the most recent letter is now up there. You can use the March 31st date, 2017. So that letter is now on there with our, again, our accredited unit number. Oops, I just clicked on the whole thing. That's what I wanted to do. No, was it that
You
one?
closed it. Yep. You know how to get there.
Let's see what it pops up under. And then along with that, we've also got, just a reminder, we've got our PHS Animal Welfare Assurance up there. So that's got our number, the most recent dates. That's often needed, as well as our USDA registration number and most current dates. So those are usually the things that are needed for grant applications. And then, so other than ALAC, just a couple of quick reminders as you're working with your PIs. Protocol processing times are around 30-35 days for new applications. So just remind your researchers as they're getting their grants in they've got to get their the protocol applications in because NIH isn't going to release the funds, and it does take us about 30 days to get through those. A new proposal. It might be longer if it involves primates or surgery. Some of them do take a little bit longer, but just something to keep in mind. I think that's about it. Any questions as it relates to Animal Care and Use Program, Maya Cook?
I have a comment. I come from the Bees office called Ag, and we run the ag demonstration stuff. And NIFA, USDA NIFA is now requiring a lot of our proposals for capacity program, not our non-formula grants, to have with them current IAPIC and IRB protocol dates. So when your PIs are getting their information for their non-formula, their regular grant information, they will, on an annual basis, when they start to get the new projects in for their AES, those who are AES appointed, they will need to have access to that date to be able to get that into NIFA's report system. So if anyone knows what I just said, then that applies to you. If you have no idea what I just said, then you probably don't worry about it.
And if you end up needing access to that information and don't have it, just send me an email because I can give you access so that you can log in and look up your PIs. And it'll only give you protocol title and most recent expiration dates. So it will give you some information online.
I think, unfortunately, in report, they're requiring the oddly enough approval date, which I don't really understand.
The approval date will be on there as well.
Alan, could you repeat the comment because the ones offside might not hear it.
Oh, sorry. If you need access for your researchers to be able to get access to their IACUC approval dates, expiration dates, protocol titles, you can send me an email and I'll get you the site where you can log in and get that information. So again, it's got limited information. It doesn't give details about the actual project. So if you need us to do a comparison to make sure it matches the grant, you're going to have to ask us. But if you already know the title and just need an updated date, you can log in and get that information. That's going to be more accurate than probably what you're going to get from your faculty member. So shoot us an email. Okay, anything else? Good, thank you.
Thank you very much, Alan. A couple of updates from accounting. Who wants to go first? Thank you.
So the new composite benefit rate, the preliminary, is currently on our website. So those are done. Those are submitted to the federal government. We do not have them approved yet, but so there is some changes possibly, but they are on our website. And
You want to get to?
we can
I don't
get
know
to
if you
our
want to
website
get
if
there.
you want to. I don't know how to do it on this.
Okay, keep talking.
I don't know about
singing,
what.
dancing.
No,
maybe.
I don't dance. Or sing for good reason. Yeah. So on costing policy analysis, if you go to composite benefit, you'll see the new spreadsheet, and these are updated. The CBR by benefit type will not be updated until we actually have the approved rates from the federal government. So if you're looking for that to be updated and you have to have it, just email us. We'll try to get it to you. It's just a little labor intensive. But so you can see that these are the rates right here. Again, if you are going to be projecting past fiscal year 17-18, do the normal 3%, or you can do, I kind of like the difference between the last 3-year escalation, do an average of that and plop that on top. It's a little bit more conservative, but if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, you can do the 3%. So both of those are fine. Any questions for costing policy and analysis? No? Okay.
You have to ask that. Huh?
Oh gosh. Okay, so we are still working on it. It's like the final, like finishing touches are being going on right now, and then we're going to submit to UCOP, and then obviously UCOP will have to look through it, and then we'll submit it. So we're hoping that we will have it in the next couple of weeks to UCOP, but you know, it's kind of, we're trying.
So we're going to be on the provisional rate.
We kind of already expected that we would be on a provisional rate, and it has not a whole lot to do with us as much as it does have to do with the fact that there's almost an over a year wait time just to have them review it. So right now, San Francisco is our office. They're not hiring San Francisco. They lost 2 of their major people out of there. And so I think people, it's been over a year that other campuses have submitted before they even hear anything back. So that's kind of what we're working with. If for some reason they manage to pull somebody else out, it's probably unlikely. Maybe we won't go into provisional, but it looks like that's probably what's going to happen. We tried to avoid it, but yeah. Anybody else any questions? Yes.
Can you repeat the question about the?
So the question was basically if our F&A rate, if it has been submitted yet, or how that's going so far. Because we're running out, like our F&A rate, fiscal year 18 is the last year that we currently have rates negotiated, which means that after we go into provision, we'll have those specific rates. We'll have a provisional rate until we have our new negotiated rates taken care of. But you had a question.
How are we doing with California's CFA and commodity boards and negotiating how we're going to be looking at that?
That's a better
I'll
question
try
for
to
you.
answer that. First of all, regarding the if we end up in provisional rate or not, one thing that those of us who have been here long enough, we know that this group is doing a great job. We are way ahead of where we have been in the previous years. At the stage they are right now, she's saying that they are sending the proposal to OP for review to go forward. I mean, that used to happen 6 months before the end of the approved rate was on the books. So they are way ahead. So, just thank you very much for the team, Mike and his team. They are doing great. Getting back to your question was where we are on indirect costs with state of California, CDFA, commodity boards, and so on and so forth. That's a very loaded question. There's a lot in there. So let me try to dissect it. In general, under AB 20 and the relationship we have with state, indirect is 25%, and beginning of July would go to 30%. We keep going up to every year 5% to get to 40%. Maximum would be 40% projected at this point in general for state of California. And the reason that is lower than our federal negotiated rate of currently 57 is because it's recognized that state invests in university in other areas. So anyway, that's in general. Now CDFA, there were some more discussions with CDFA and specifically having to do with, on the side, some of the money coming through CDFA from either commodity boards or some other entities which are not commodity boards, but they act like a commodity board. And I'll divide those two and I'll tell you where we are on that. CDFA, the agreement has been that we would start as a 10% and keep going up. The base are for 10% right now. That has been agreed between CDFA and OP. They're going up. OP's position is that we have to end up at the 40%, like the rest of the state. There's discussion on that. CDFA apparently is saying that it shouldn't be more than 25%, but that's where it is. Right now it's 10, and is it going to 15? At 15, so we would go 5% higher beginning of July. So that's general CDFA. Commodity boards, if they are recognized commodity boards, which means that either state says they are commodity boards, it's on their website, there's a list. These are commodity boards of state approved, or federal, because there are some USDA approved commodity boards. Those are all subject to 0% still. Now, there are some entities that, that commodity boards basically, they tax their members, gather money for research, but either they are on the list of state or federal. There are some other entities, they do tax themselves the same way, but they are not recognized commodity boards. So they are saying that they should be treated like commodity boards. And the position at this point is that if state says they are commodity boards, we agree. If state doesn't say that, then, and the money comes through CDFA, for example, it's CDFA basically. So that discussion of, should it be 0 or 10%, at this point, it makes sense that it should be 10%. And the state is in control of that, basically. If they want to make them commodity boards, that's what I understand. Any other? I think that.
Is there a distinction between a commission and a commodity board? Like, for instance, there's the California olive oil commission.
Are they on the list of state? I mean, on the website of state recognized as commodity boards or commissions?
Okay.
If they are there, OP accepts the 0%. And this all goes back to, I think there are some documents from 1967, 69, I believe. That's where it goes back to, where there are exceptions for indirect for state of California to be, for commodity boards to be 0, and they go from there. I think it's February of 69 or something like that. I have the documents if you want to see them. We can send it to you. But anyway, the bottom line, it's really depends on if a state says these are whatever, and they should put them on their website. And they do when they agree with that. But we are working with some other entities, and you might be thinking about one right now that they gave us an award last year, $600,000, and the position was that they are like a commodity board. We went through a lot of discussions, talking to OP, and the analysis was, as I told you, if state doesn't say they are commodity boards, they are not commodity boards for this purpose. But they behave like commodity boards, but I mean, does it make, did I answer your question?
Yeah, and so what you're saying though is that if they're not a state recognized commodity board, then their F&A would be based on where their funding is coming from?
That's what it is, because if it's through CDFA, it's it follows the rules that OP allows for CDFA.
But if it's not through CDFA, like it's just.
Who is it through? If it comes through, again, I know that it doesn't come through a corporate entity, I mean for-profit entity, but just to follow the discussion, if the money comes through a for-profit corporate entity, it's 57%, but that doesn't happen. That's I just wanted to give you an example of, depends on where it comes from. Yeah, just, and if they are their own entity, they say that they don't want to pay indirect, well, I would like to have $1 million too, but nobody gives it to me. So our executive associate vice chancellor is sitting back there too. Do you have any comment on that, or should I bring the microphone there, or they can't hear you? Maybe you want to come here? Okay, she's invited. Just thank you, Cindy.
Thanks. So when it comes to this, I think Ahmed explained it quite well. We recognize the ones that the state recognizes as being commodity boards, and they have the lower rate. OP a year ago changed the indirect cost waiver policy. I don't know if people are aware of that, but that changed a year ago, where they delegated certain authorities down to the campuses that they used to retain. But some of the exceptions to that delegation are in fact the state contracts. Those all still have to go up to OP for approvals, as do any waivers of indirect costs on federal grants. So we can waive in other areas. Corporate areas we probably won't, just because they're for profit. But these specific areas, OP has reserved the right to say yay or nay. Nonetheless, they've also given us some delegations of authority, particular in the CDFA area, to adjust that down to the 10-15% with the approval from our chancellor. But we asked if we could also subdelegate that chancellor approval to the vice chancellor level. And so right now what we're working on campus is to actually change our campus indirect cost exception policy to allow for that delegation of authority from the chancellor to the vice chancellor. So that'll be in the works. I think Molly Theodosi in the policy office will be posting that fairly soon. We've sent her the language just this week. So that'll be going out like to the faculty senate and others to comment on the change. But really what we're doing now is a very quick, I would say quick and dirty policy change in order to get the delegations in place. What I plan on doing next in order to fully implement the policy changes at the UCOP level is to form a task force that's primarily faculty based, so we can have a conversation about what exceptions we on our Davis campus recognize as being valid, that would kind of be standing waivers or exceptions to the policy for us, because we do have unique areas that aren't recognized in UCOP's overarching policy. And so that would be the next step, is to identify those and codify those in a policy endeavor. But that's going to take more time. That kind of task force approach takes longer time. So we're going to get the delegation in place first, and then work better on a UC Davis campus specific policy with feedback from deans and everybody else.
Thank you very much. Do you have any other updates or anything? We talked about government shutdown and all of that.
Oh, you already talked about that.
Talk
Okay.
about that.
Yeah. So hopefully by Friday, they'll work things out so we don't have a shutdown.
Thank you.
Their hope. So I do want feedback from you all. If you are seeing agencies that have not been funding new awards, things like that, please send me an email, because on the national level, I'm communicating with Council on Government Relations, and we're hearing rumblings that NIH isn't awarding things right now. I have not heard that on our
You haven't
campus.
heard.
I have heard from College of Agriculture that in fact we are seeing USDA either delay or not provide funding, so we're already seeing that. I would like to get your feedback if you're hearing those things happening with federal agencies, then we can try to do things in Washington DC with that information. So USDA would be part of that as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You want to say something? I don't. What do you want me to say? Okay.
The commodity board topic continues to be under active discussion at UCOM.
That's
So
true.
changes may be coming in the next couple of months, 3 months.
So that's continuation of what you were asking. So yeah, it's going on, and again, the discussion is in line with what I tried to explain. Let's see, getting back to accounting again. You want Francisco? Thank you.
Okay. Oh, my goodness.
Can see you.
UCD was not selected this year for a single audit.
Oh no.
So that's okay. Also, I'd like to thank all the departments, because last year's audit was much easier because they are uploading a lot of the supporting documentation in Koali. So we should keep with that, because the audits have changed. Before, they would only select 5 funds, and they would only just check on those. Last year, on the audit, they actually checked in over 60 awards. So they do select randomly other ones. And we have to have all the documentation online, okay? They're making a lot of emphasis on PI approval and documentation of the invoice, okay? Now, we're getting close to the end of the year, the fiscal year. So we should start checking some things, especially like payments of subawards, overdrafts, and start clearing those out. Because I like to have the books as clean as possible for fiscal close.
Okay, thank you.
We have a question for Francisco.
Yes.
They would like to know, will we be able to upload payroll expense transfer documentation?
Thank you. I had a work order in, they approved it, and then they dumped it in the trash. So they were supposed to have attachments to the set document, but they said, oh no, we're not gonna do that anymore, sorry.
Supposedly, they told us that all the attachments were gonna be allowed in all the documents, if you're referring to that.
You know how you have notes and attachments? And
Yes.
notes? That was my request to Koali, and they accepted that request.
Yes.
And like a billion years later, they came back with, oh, we're turning off this request now. And there's still no attachment.
Oh, the request also went through us. There is a request that we did to have those attachments activated for all the documents that you use.
So how soon we can see that happen?
I don't know. The problem is that I don't have control over the IT. They do have their priorities, okay? But it is important to have those documents attached because it means that I don't have to be pestering you guys when we have an audit. And usually it also happens that it's not only the single audit. The sponsors are actually going through and doing desk reviews. So many times we'll get from CDFA, oh, we're reviewing invoice number 10. And please send us all the documentation or send us all the justification for the expenses. Or send us the reason why those expenses were incurred. In that case, on the last request, we do have to go to the department because you'll have to talk to the PI to get a justification for those expenses, okay? Recently, we had one that they asked, okay, now tell me what did each one of the persons did? I'm not able to provide that answer. So we had to go back to the department. But as we upload the documents, it simplifies the work. It makes it more transparent for all of us.
I think that when CDFA rotates out their auditors, you know, they have like
Yeah.
a rotation system, it seems like.
Yeah.
And so you're retraining these people all the time, and I'm not really sure I don't know that they're fully interpreting their policies the same.
Yes, sometimes you actually have to go back and say, okay, according to your guidelines, it says this.
Right,
Why are you asking me for this?
right.
It doesn't mean that if the auditor asks you for something, you're going to say yes. You got to sometimes go back and go to the policy and say, look, the policy states this, so we don't have to provide that. We had a request from, I think it was a state office, where they wanted all the supporting documentation for all the expenses. Okay? And on travel, there are certain guidelines. You don't provide supporting documentation if the expense is under, I don't remember the number right now. So we had to discuss with them, look, UC policy is this. So we are not going to provide a ticket for a payment of $5 for a parking. Okay? Because they were asking all the details. And that,
presumably that's agreed upon when they agree to the award, correct?
that's right. And then we have to go back. Now, keep in mind, sometimes these auditors are third parties.
Right.
Because a lot of the audit services are, I'm noticing it with the federal government and the state, they are contracting CPA firms to do their work. So, and if they rotate, it means retraining. Okay? But the good idea is to develop a good relationship with them. They ask for something, provide that information as fast as you can, because that demonstrates that you have controls and that you are documenting your process. If they ask for something and you give them it 3 weeks later, it's questionable. I mean, they might accept it, but that's creating doubts in their mind. Why did you take so long to give me that information? And this is what I always have tried to work with a single audit or when we have an audit. Is, look, within 24 hours, I'll try to deliver. If I cannot do it within 24 hours, I'll give them an explanation why. But it's a joint effort between them. It's the same thing with the fiscal close. The fiscal close is not, we do the fiscal close or you do the fiscal close. It's a combination of the two of them. Okay? And what we're seeing is that a lot of sub-awards, they are not sending the invoices on time. Okay? So it's important for the departments to follow up on those sub-awards and make sure that they send invoices. Sometimes I'm seeing that we're processing an invoice in April for things that they did last year in July and August. So what's happening with those? Okay, that creates a problem for you guys in the department and for the PI, because it doesn't have really reliable data. Were there no expenses? Or didn't they do some of the work? And this is the thing. That's why it's important to follow up with the subaward. We had a case not too long ago that the subaward ended like 7 months ago, and they just got an invoice. So they're coming back. They came to me and says, can we charge this and get reimbursed for it? I'm still working with the sponsor to see if they will pay it. And then if they won't pay it, then we'll just go back to the subawardee and says, look, you had 90 days to submit your final invoice. You submitted it 7 months later. Can't do anything.
Thank you. Any more questions for accounting on this or anything else? If not, the updates on proposals and awards. Mike, you have proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to give you a couple of reminders. This first one definitely is a reminder because the notice went out to the listserv last week. NSF has implemented a new policy that's effective this past Monday. For all proposals, they're requiring a new form to identify collaborators and affiliates of all of the PIs, all of the investigators listed on the proposal. So make sure those forms are included in NSF proposals. We do have lots of NSF deadlines this month. I'm not going to go through the whole list. We have lots of NIH deadlines. We have lots of USDA deadlines. We expect to be processing a lot of proposals for the state because the state agencies now have their budgets and they want to try to get things in place for the new fiscal year. May is one of our higher volume months for proposals of the entire year. So I encourage you to get your proposals in as early as you possibly can because there's going to be a lot of stress in the proposals team this month, given that volume and everything that's going on with the Cayuse implementation and everything else. So the earlier we can get your proposals, the better. Another reminder, I've already had this one, but it doesn't hurt to do it again. F&A rate for state projects beginning July 1st and later will be 30%, with the exception of CDFA. They're always special. And any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any questions online either. Grace? No, they did the joint report. Thank you. Awards.
All right, I'm going to go return back to the cheery topic of the potential federal shutdown. So if we don't have any kind of agreement by Friday, what's going to happen is operational and administrative activities related to federal oversight of research and the administration of grants, cooperative agreements, and contracts will temporarily cease. Now, in the last government shutdown in 2013, NIH Commons and NSF Fastlane were closed, and so no post-award actions could be submitted. So that means that please work with your faculty and sponsored programs team to take proactive actions to avoid or minimize these problems that could arise during this shutdown time. So particularly, please submit any prior approval requests in the next 2 days, including no-cost extension requests, okay? So, yeah, if your grant is going to end maybe by the end of May and you need a no-cost extension, it would behoove you to request one before Friday. Now, exactly. A lot of agencies have contingency plans up. Okay, so NSF has their contingency plan up, DHHS, DOE, and NASA. Okay, maybe a few more agencies have contingency plans up. So if you go to their websites, I think you can see what these agencies have to say. But just to the best of our knowledge, the following are likely to occur. No awards will be issued by the federal sponsors during this time. So that includes no new supplemental incremental funding.
Federal awards under negotiations during this time will probably be put on hold. And federal employees, program officers, grants management specialists, contracting officers, etc., they will probably not be going to work, so they won't be available to answer your comments or questions during this time.
On Friday? Starting from Monday.
Starting Monday.
Okay.
They're expected to be at work at Friday, I believe. Yeah. Okay, so during the 2013 shutdown, we were informed that most agencies, if the project had existing funds and the performance period had not ended, that the work on the project could continue, okay, to the extent that the project does not require federal staff collaboration. And the federal sponsors could, of course, issue stop orders at any time. Okay, so.
There won't be any in there to issue them.
Right.
That's the plan.
Yeah, so, and just to let you know, obviously, contracts and cooperative agreements are more likely to receive any stop orders, should there be anyone there to issue them. Grants probably will not be faced with any kind of stop order situation. So that's just, so yes, bottom line, please get your prior sponsor approval requests in the next 2 days. Right.
Just to add, if NIH does shut down, the progress reports for the UMPs are usually for the first of the month. So they would like to get working on those now if they haven't already. For the LVPRs for UMP grants.
Okay, so for UMP grants, the comment was, please get your progress report in. They're usually due at the beginning of the month. So yeah, get those in before Friday. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. I don't think we have any more good news. Any question for any of us? No? Anything online? Chelsea, do you see anything online? Any questions there? Okay, if there's nothing else, I guess we would keep working and hopefully the government would not shut down. Thank you very much for coming in today.